Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Way of the Sensitive. I'm your host, Cara Wild. This is a podcast for those of us who feel called to live in a different way, to create a new society where diversity and uniqueness is celebrated, not shamed. We're the channels of the light, co-creating a heaven on earth upon this beautiful planet. We're here to live and achieve our soul's goals in this lifetime. To us, it's not woo, it's real. Calling all the magic makers, the mystics, the empaths, the sensitives, the starseeds, the autistic ones, sometimes sidelined, sometimes scapegoated, but we know that we're here to create new pathways in the one mind, because it's not just about traversing alternative dimensions, it's also about landing and being fully alive in this gorgeous world. Hey sensitives, welcome to the podcast. Today we have channel Joanna Hennon, who channels for us 3 collectives today. And it was after the session that I was listening to the recording again and reflecting on the different streams that came through, and I saw that each different stream was a embodiment of the teachings that they were wanting to bring through, and they all worked together to bring one powerful message about, again, it was living in true power. Seems to be what the guides are wanting to talk about recently. So first of all, we have Prince, who talks to us about vibrancy and fun. Then we have Saint Germain, who talks a lot about creating stability, what Aurora calls a middle ground, and what the ancients are guiding me to create more in my life. And we talk about how that can feel boring, but it's necessary. And then from there, Jesus energy stream comes through to talk about activating true power through the heart with acts of loving kindness. So I would be really interested to see what you think of how those streams work together and how they were a demonstration of a process that we can apply to our lives, so that we can stay in a stable flow. I'd love to hear your reflections. Let me know what your ahas were. Come and share them in the Facebook group and enjoy the podcast. Hello everybody and welcome to the podcast The Way of the Sensitive, and the next in the series of Interview Your Guides. And today we have the channel Joanna Hennon. Hi Joanna, thanks for joining us.
Hi Cara, thanks for inviting me.
So for those of you listening in, me and Joanna know each other through a business group that we are connected in, and what I love about working with Joanna and in this way is how we just read energy in our business group. You know, that's the primary way of running business first, is, don't we? It's just fun reading.
That's exactly the word that was just coming to me. I'm like, it's so much fun.
So you've been a channel for quite a while, and before I knew you, I think, really. So do you just want to tell people kind of how it started for you and what channeling means to you?
Yeah, so it actually started maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, consciously. So I think I've always been able to channel, it just wasn't conscious.
Yeah.
But 5 or 6 years ago, I really wanted a guide, but it was like this ego thing of like, I want to be cool like these other people. I also want a guide. Like, when will a guide want to work with me? Choose me. And of course, nothing was happening. And my first experience of channeling was when I was doing an intuitive art course, and this guide just popped into my head and just told me her name. And I lost a few minutes of the course, and I was just like, I came back to the course and I was like, what just happened? And then, as you do, I ignored it. Uh-huh. So even though I wanted it to happen for so long, I ignored it. So that was my start with it. And eventually, I kind of accepted and started working with this guide. Her name was Melina, or is Melina, and that was the beginning. So accidental, maybe a little bit, but not.
Yeah, but a powerful intention and desire that went out and then came back when you're in that kind of receptive mode, I guess, which is what that creative space, you know, and focused on creating can do.
And also, like, I just had to get past that, the need like that I would only be, I don't know, cool or valued or whatever it was once I had a guide to work with. Like until then, I wasn't spiritually aware type thing.
Right.
So once I worked past that and kind of let go of the need to have this guide to prove something to myself, then it happened. So it had to come from a different space than that need for recognition or for proof of something.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as well, when we're absolutely desperate for something, we push it away. You know, it's that's that balance, that fine line, isn't it? And I love the fact that I think people are going to really benefit from knowing that connection kind of came organically and almost like instantly when you weren't expecting it, through something like art, which I don't think many of us think about necessarily, or certainly not some of my students, you know, that it can come from something like that.
Yeah, that's how I started. That's what I teach in my kind of basic programs is we do it with intuitive art, channeling guidance, because that's when the brain stops.
Yeah.
And there's actual space for that connection to come through. Yeah. So it's not like for me, like we always have the connection, but we block it with all the thoughts and the mind chatter. And as soon as the mind is occupied with something else, like coloring or drawing or making collages, that guidance can come through. I think it's a really great way of starting out, because it's safe. It feels safe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of one person in the Facebook group who's talking about this, so actually will really benefit from hearing what you've just said. So, do you channel individual guides? Do you have a collective? Do you have what is cool channeling to you now? What's that look like?
I channel individual energies. Yeah. All sorts of energies. I don't really work with just one. Yeah. Guide, but like a team, but they're not, I don't as far as I know, I don't connect with a collective, although I guess I can do that as well. Like if I don't want to talk to them individually about something, then I just ask in general, and I don't really know who's answering, and that's okay. Like I don't really mind.
That makes sense.
Sometimes I want answers. Like I'm very big on very practical answers. None of this kind of wishy-washy guidance stuff for me. Like none of these love and trust messages in my world. So I like to have specifics. And then sometimes I want to talk to them individually. Because I'm kind of aware of what each of them brings to the table, you know?
I was going to ask if you ask specific things for different people, because I know I haven't said anything to people about this yet, but I'm playing around with like my business mentors. You know, I've got a board of directors in the non-physical, and each one of those has got very specific roles within my business. So it's something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a business board now too, thanks to you. But it's not role specific in my business, but I feel like each of them has strengths.
Yes.
You know, so each of them kind of.
That's a better way of describing it, actually.
Yeah, that's the way I've always kind of felt about it, I guess, that each of them has shows up for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
So so if they show up specifically for creativity, then they were probably something to do with creativity, or they're known for something to do with creativity, that kind of thing, you know?
And I love how you've said, I think it's important for people that are just starting out channeling as well, that quite often we do connect with just one guide that kind of takes us through that first process, and then we're opened up and we know the process, we know the terrain, as it were, and then more will come in. But if they did that to start off with, we'd probably have a nervous breakdown.
No. But when I started working with Melina, like even later on, after I was really comfortable working with her and trusted kind of that channeling process, that stuff would come through and all these things, and knew what it felt like. And then other guides would show up. I had 3 for a long time. So the other 2 kind of I would just talk to at various points, but I refused to work with them. Like when I was with clients, I would, at one point I remember saying, everybody just talk through Melina. So I would still only be comfortable connecting with her in that way, and I would get my other guides and my clients' guides to that's really funny, I haven't thought about this in ages, to talk through Melina, whereas now I don't do that. I just talk to I can see the individual energies.
Yeah, and that's another point for newbies or for people that have just come across a particular one way of channeling, is they don't like in my course, what I've really drilled home is, and I'm sure you do the same, it's a partnership. So we can direct the guides just as you would do people that you're working with, your work colleagues, your peers, your friends. It's like, that way doesn't work for me. Don't wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
I live in physical reality, and whoa, back off a bit, that's too much. And we can have that co-creative, cooperative relationship with them. In fact, I think some of what they do is to teach us that in the first place anyway.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way, but that makes sense. And I completely agree. That's how I view it. And that's how I teach it as well, is that you develop a relationship. So just like you would have a new friend or a new partner or something, like you work out what those boundaries are and what works for you and for the other. And it's the same sort of thing. You're just building a new relationship. And so like I have the same, I have those kinds of boundaries as well. Like I would be really freaked out if I ever saw anything.
Right.
So for some reason that really like, I don't want to like wake up in the middle of the night and actually see something. So we have what I hope is a long-standing agreement that they will never do that. They can come in dreams, and that and I'm open to channeling pretty much all day. I don't kind of turn it on and off. It's just constant.
Yeah.
That's the way I prefer it. But there'll be no visuals.
Find another channel for that bit.
Find another channel for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's brilliant. All right. So are you ready to go in and see who wants to come and play? And you just give me a nod when you're ready and I'll talk to the guide. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, I feel like they're all there, but I don't know yet who wants to come forward. So
I'll just start. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, thank you for joining us today. Can I know who I'm talking to? Do you have a name or something that you want to be recognized by?
The name that you recognize me by is Prince.
Oh, Prince. Okay, cool. Well, this is going to be exciting. Thank you for joining us today. So I have come across your collective in a channeling session that I've done before, so I'm super excited about this. So what's your reason for connecting with humans at this time?
Today, my message is one of adding a bit of fun to the things you do. I want you to actually see me moving on that stage. Okay. And it's adding a vibrancy to your work, even if it's what you call sacred work. Adding that vibrancy to everything you do that will make you feel really alive.
Okay, so I've read about your physical incarnation in this lifetime and how you was as a performer, and there seems to be, for me, a more understanding of the idea of compassion as well when you're connecting and working with people than I ever thought you had as a performer. So I guess my question actually is, first of all, how do you see that we could add more vibrancy? How would that look like? What would we do?
Let loose.
Oh dear God. Okay.
You let loose. It's like you as humanity have been tied up in these chains of expectations and of historical precedent and of expectation and all these things, and now it's just time to let loose. And I know that this is really overused in your circles, the idea of being yourself and being authentic, but that's really what it is. It's really allowing yourself to dance if you feel like dancing, and to sing if you feel like singing, and to move in a way that makes you feel alive in your body, because let me tell you, you might miss that body later.
So how did you bring a sense of, like, we saw vibrancy when you were on the stage. Good grief, we really saw vibrancy when you were on the stage. How did you bring that into your everyday life? What did that look like behind the scenes?
I'm going to be honest and say that I didn't always have the same vibrancy when I was off the stage.
Mm.
I would thrive on being able to share that energy of vibrancy with you. And really, the vibrancy came through my music. That was me. The music was me. When you listen to my music, it's my frequency that you're listening to.
Yeah.
And this is important because you have so many expectations on yourself that if you choose to be authentic and invite this vibrancy and really feel alive, that you have to sustain that all the time. But you don't. It's okay if it's not 100%. Just start by inviting that vibrant energy of your true self in, of inviting that joy in the little things and the small things into your life, and go from there.
So there was something for you about when you connected to an audience, so that made the difference in terms of your vibrancy, by the sounds of it. And there was, in your words, when you said that, I felt some real sadness. I'm not really sure whether that was an empath thing or whether that's something for me to pay attention to, but I really felt a sadness, as you said, that you didn't experience it on a daily basis. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
It's not a sadness that I didn't experience that on a daily basis. It's more a sadness of some of the less vibrant things that make up the human life.
Okay. So there's a sense that vibrancy is always available, and it's okay if we can't do it all the time, but it's always available. But some parts of our human experience take us out of that space.
Yes. And that's okay. That's how it's meant to be. You can't be in that space all the time. You have to allow yourself to experience the full range of your humanity.
So from your experience, what would you say is the best way that we can learn from those times when we're not in that vibrancy? Like, what's that period for?
That period is for awareness and introspection. Allow yourself to pause and look at how you're feeling and why, and understand that it's not forever. The vibrancy is there and you can reach for it when you're ready. It's a flow of energy in your life.
That makes sense.
I feel like he wants to go, Cara.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
All right, so far we've got guidance about vibrancy pretty strongly, and fun, which is no surprise with it being Joanna as a channel, really, that the focus is fun.
Okay.
So who's flowed in next? Who's joining us now? The stripper?
Gosh. That's still me. I am Count Saint Germain.
I can feel that shift of energy. Thank you for joining us. What would you like us to know today?
I would like to speak to the flow of energy that came up.
Okay, so we've got the vibrancy from Prince, and now, so you're wanting to speak about the flow between the two, or when
Yes.
we're out? Yes, okay.
Yes. I want to speak about the spikes and the dips.
That would be brilliant. Thank you.
We feel from our vantage point that there is judgment of the highs and a judgment of the lows. And we would like to invite the listeners to suspend judgment. So it's not that the highs in your life are the way things are meant to be, and your soul expression, and all these big, wonderful terms that you always wish for more of. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that the lows in your life are when you fall out of some kind of energy that you feel you should be in, or when you lose your way, or that's not it. That's not how it is. The lows are just a flow. It's a different part of the flow, and they're just as important to the wholeness of your experience.
Okay, that makes sense. So where do we get this idea from? I guess what I'm thinking is when I go into the non-physical realms, I feel that there is a place of bliss, but it's not constant excitement. It's like a combination of peace and love and joy. And my guess is that it's the duality that we live in that creates that split. But how is physical reality different from that reality that you are in terms of the flow?
Where we are is more stable. And that is really what we invite you to be open to. You spoke of the energy of excitement, and whereas excitement is judged in your reality as a good thing, it's not stable. It's not sustainable, and it's not stable.
Yeah.
And neither is despair. So it is in your best interest to experience both. But you should not aim to stay in that state of excitement all the time. The energy that is sustainable is an energy of peace and calm and unconditional love and support. That is not excitement.
Okay, I'm really interested in this because I've just channeled on this morning with my guides about creating harmony by living in that heart field and that heart space. I get told by my guides all the time it's about finding the middle way. Yes. And I'm hearing from the Abraham Collective that appreciation is different from excitement. So appreciation is that stable kind of flow that you're talking about. So it's different, I think, from what we expect a joyful life to be and to look like.
Yes, appreciation is flow. That middle ground that you speak of is flow. When you're in excitement, it's not flow because you get stuck in the energy of excitement and you can't move. When you're in despair, you get stuck in the energy of despair and you can't move. You can't allow flow from the two extremes. You can only be flow when you're in that middle ground, as you call it, which in fact is not a middle ground, but your true nature.
I need to get that quoted up. That's really good. I like that. That's useful. So a collective that I channeled called Aurora once said that we could use, not should, but excitement is the rocket fuel for our desires. And I think what they meant by that is when we feel excitement, we're shooting off those rockets of desires. It's like a creative force. Yes. Can you say a bit about that as well, please?
That's a wonderful, wonderful visual. And indeed, it's like rocket fuel, but you don't need to keep adding the fuel. Once you're up in the air, you don't need that excitement to keep pushing. you can just relax into flow and allow yourself to fly.
So once we've put the fuel in, that's it. It's off and it's doing its creative thing. And I guess what's coming to me now is if we're in flow, then that's in receptive mode. Is that when we can receive the creation?
And sustain it. It's a matter of sustaining the energy that you're putting out there. If you keep putting more and more fuel in, it aggravates.
Okay.
You put the fuel in and you let it fly, and then you stand in your power and your strength, knowing that you can sustain that energy. You don't need to keep pushing it forward. It's already moving, and then you can receive. That's the missing step in between putting the desire out and being able to receive, is standing in power, knowing that you can sustain the energy that's needed to create what you're creating, to bring what you desire into your experience.
Where does that excitement energy go? Like, I know it might not go anywhere, and I'm very working in a linear brain when I'm thinking in terms of physical reality. But what happens to that excitement once we've felt it?
The best way maybe to think about it is that it remains the fuel. But that excitement stays as the fuel. That's what sustains it. But you don't need to keep adding more excitement.
Okay.
It's a trust.
Yeah.
That the initial burst of energy that you put into your rocket is enough.
Yeah. Okay. So how would you guide us to trust more easily?
You need to do it. You need to push the rocket out there, shoot it out there, and then relax. The only way to build the trust is to experience it more often. You have a saying that practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. If you don't practice, you can't make your trust any stronger.
Okay, so trust is like a muscle then, that we can build it, and then we can feel its strength as we're building it.
Yes.
So what would that look like on a daily basis if we were going around trusting that rocket of desire has gone out there, it's doing its creative force, and we will receive it when we receive it, and we can stay in the power of trust to that. What would we do on a daily basis until that showed up in physical reality? How would we live that trust?
How you would live that trust will depend from person to person, but I can tell you how you would not live that trust.
Cool.
And you would not keep reiterating the desire. You would not keep trying to get that excitement up again. You would do things that make you feel stable. Stability is a very important concept that maybe can be judged as a bit boring.
I was going to say, we do judge it as boring, I think. Yeah.
But it's stability of you. It's stability in your power.
So it's stabilizing the personality in physical reality then. So staying true to ourselves, making decisions that strengthen our boundaries, and construct that, like what I call a portal for our soul, which is our personality, our preferences, and our desires. Is it that kind of thing?
Yes, it's stabilizing the personality and the energy. It's remaining in your power, and each of you individually will know what lets you be in your power and what takes you out of your power.
Okay. So just go on, were you going to say something?
Constantly questioning the desire, or when the desire will manifest, or any of these things takes you out of your power because you question the system.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're stable in your own power, you know that it's all working.
Okay, so what is true power from your perspective?
We're switching guides, Cara,
Okay, cool.
for that question. So hang on a minute. Just a sip of water.
Of course, take your time.
Okay.
So, hello, who's coming through?
I am the energy of Jesus.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Oh, it's perfect that you want to talk about true power, that you're the one. What would you like us to know about true power?
True power comes from your heart. And even from here, I can feel how true that rings for you.
Yeah. Well, your energy's strong. Just a quick break to let you know that if you are intrigued by channeling and there's a part of you that is just so curious and wondering if channeling is an itch that wants to be scratched for you, I want to say that channeling is a skill and not a gift. And those of all us that are drawn to channeling, whether it be verbally channeling your art, channeling your work, channeling your creativity, those of us that are drawn to it, I can absolutely do it. I have no doubt, which is why I created the Adventures in Consciousness course, where people can learn to connect with their guides, hold that frequency, and then bring messages in as guidance for their own lives and for the lives of others. A little known fact about this group, we also have a channeling circle once a month where we all jump on a call and we get to practice our channeling skills in a really safe environment. The latest channeling circle that we just had was just a flow of channels working together, bringing a collective of information about wealth. We also have one a month Q&As from me, anything that you want to know about channeling your guides, channeling different streams, different vibrations, different frequencies, and also how to stabilize your channel in physical reality. So if that's something that interests you, come over to carawild.com and there is a tab on the right top that says Channel Your Guide. Come and have a look, see if it's for you, and we'd love to have you in there. Back to the podcast.
The heart space is the most important part of you that you must tend to. Now, how do you tend to your heart space, where your true power lies? You allow love. You do nice things for yourself. You do nice things for others, for the planet, for the community. You understand that kindness is what matters. That is where your power comes from. And that is where your power to transform the planet comes from. It is work that started a long time ago, that Each and every one of you listening to this, because you're not listening from coincidence. Each of you listening to this is continuing this work of bringing the vibration, the loving vibration of kindness into your world, into our world.
I think that would be really beneficial for a lot of people to hear, especially in the, I guess I call them my tribe, but the people that I want to support the most is because we feel like it's like kindness is underrated, extraordinary kindness and extraordinary respect. And those of us that want to live like that can feel quite isolated. And so I think it's really beneficial to hear that it's an extension of an ancient message, really. You know, it's an unfolding of something that's been around for a long time, a message that's been around for a long time.
And there are many of you. There is no need to feel isolated. There are many of you drawn to the power of loving kindness.
True.
Living on your planet right now. But if you don't act on that kindness, if you don't act on those impulses, if you don't weave the energy of kindness into your life and your business and your families and everything you do, then you will remain isolated because you will not know that these other people are there.
Okay. There's one thing that you said about being nice to each other and to ourselves, and I'm glad you went on to define that a bit more in terms of kindness, because we have so many judgments about what it means to be nice and correct behaviour, and some of which is conditioning that just it doesn't work, it doesn't serve. So how can we what guiding principle can we use to know when we're being self-loving or loving to others, that kind of doing nice things to us for ourselves?
Kindness for yourself is not self-indulgent.
Yeah.
True kindness, the kindness from which your power stems, is powerful. We ask you to be honest with yourselves, and you'll know when something is self-indulgent, when something is there to mask something you don't want to think about or address, and when something is an actual act of kindness. An act of kindness will be kind for everyone.
Okay, that's a useful distinction.
You can't be... A true act of self-love will also be in kindness to others. And a true act of kindness to others is also an act of self-love for yourself.
Yeah. I've had direct experience. I know that for true. And there's a couple of things that's coming up for me. Is first of all, I have been out of levels of awareness when I was not educated in what was kindness for me. I thought self-criticism was like a way of being kind to myself. I thought that, come on, get yourself sorted out. You can do, all that kind of, just get on with it and just do it. That seemed to me to be self-kindness, and when I learned self-compassion, it felt like I was giving myself too much of an easy time. It felt wrong, and I've had to learn that. So I don't think we're always in complete awareness. Or this, maybe it's just me that was outside. I didn't have that knowledge as to know what actual kindness was. So if you're somebody that's kind of grown up and not experienced so much of that kindness, especially, when we're conditioned when we're little, Is there some way that we can recognize kindness? Like, how, will it feel a particular way? Will it produce a particular route? For those of us that are still struggling with this self-indulgent, self-critical, or being kind to ourselves?
You ask if it's coming from your heart. Self-criticism never comes from the heart. Self-criticism comes from the head.
True.
Sometimes from here. But it does not come from the heart. So if you ask yourself that question, and the trick is, of course, to be willing to stop the self-criticism long enough to ask the question. But if you do pause and ask the question, you can feel the distinction of what comes from your heart and what does not. Feel it right now. There is a web of connections between all the hearts of all the listeners. You can feel the heart connection.
Yeah.
And it feels powerful and expansive.
And stable.
And stable.
Yeah.
Whereas self-criticism does not feel any of those things. Self-criticism belittles.
Yeah.
The heart allows you to step into greatness.
Okay, I've got a final question, and I've been deliberating whether it's self-indulgent to ask this question, but it is a heartfelt thing. I had this experience, I'm hoping this is going to inform other people. I had this experience a few years ago where a group of young men were coming towards me, and I was in a particularly loving space in my life at that time. And I could feel a negative intent coming from them. And my first thoughts was, because I was reading like some of your work at the time as well, and my first thoughts were, you'll not get me to hate you. Like, that's what they wanted, and like that any act of violence towards another is an act of violence to self. They wanted me to think about them in a particular way. And I thought, you won't get me to hate you. And I just radiated love. And one of them threw a stone towards me. This sounds so bizarre now, but they threw a stone towards me and it came straight towards me, but then it bounced off my auric field. It went to the side. They looked and said, how did that happen? I looked and said, how did that happen? But I didn't question it either until I got home. And then I was like, whoa, what happened? So there's something, I think, in the field that we generate when we come from that really powerful love space. I don't generate that very often in my life. You know, I'm not at that place yet. But could you speak to what happens to our field, to what we're in resonance with when we come from that powerful place of, you know, I will not hate you, I'll always see you in a place of love, particularly with what's going on in our lives right now?
Love is what you are. And love is the only power there is. Human beings live in fear. And because the planet is deep into fear, the things that cause the fear are considered power. But they're not. What happens to your field when you decide to emanate love, and it's a very brave thing to do in a situation of fear, it's as if you're building a tunnel of light or a pillar of light around yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not, the pillar of light isn't just you. When you're open to leading with love in that way, you are also open to love coming in to support you. Love meaning spirit.
Yeah.
So when you choose to lead with love in this way, you become stronger and you allow miracles, what look like miracles in your world.
So love is the strongest protective force, you know, because we quite often feel like we need protecting. When we look at some aspects of our physical reality that are manifesting right now, and what I'm hearing is like love is the force field.
Love is the force field. If you want to do something useful for the parts of the world that need protection, you send love. And you do this naturally, do you not?
Yeah.
You know that this is the answer.
Yeah. And it's that constant reminder, because we do know it, but that constant reminder that we need, that love is true power, kindness is true power, and we can be conditioned to think that fighting from fear is power, and it's not. That just leads to more of the same.
Fighting from fear is external power, which is illusion. Love is the only power that exists.
Well, I think that's a brilliant place to finish. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It has been a pleasure.
And she's back. Hey, how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That was, you could feel the change in energy. Be interesting to see if any of the audience experienced that, to either whether they're watching on video or the audio, and you know there'll be a lot of sensitives that are watching that, but that vibrancy of Prince, this just there, and then Saint Germain did come through with that calm, and then the Jesus energy came through with a real sense of that true power. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to play.
Well, I'd love to hear any ahas or any insights that people had in the Facebook group, and I'm sure Joanna would really love to hear that too. You know, we channel for an audience because we want this stuff out there, don't we? So, you know, it's really useful to know what impact it's all having. So, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.